Hey, Tactical Painter back out in the Suits Crafting wood shop. Come on out to the shop. I've got something new and exciting out in my shop today. I'm going to be selling these awesome blue and red dye stabilized rope blanks that I've cast in pearl white. And these have all sorts of fun pieces of red and blue dye stabilized manila rope, all cutting through at different weird odd angles. And I figured I'd bring you out and show you a turning video that I've done and made this Independence Junior Gentleman Patriot pen, and just show you exactly how it turns up, show you some of its features, talk about it while I'm turning it. This is the first time that I'm turning it, and just figured I'd go over some of the characteristics so that you guys know what you can expect while turning up your own Bound in Patriotism pen blank. So come on in and check it out. So check out this rope blank that I've got going here. Really, really cool. I've got red and blue dye stabilized rope. You can see all of the pearl. There you can see the bubbles. This is one of my seconds, one of the pieces that I will not sell in my shop because of the fact that it does have a couple of these bubbles. So I put this in a cast-off bin, so I'm going to turn it up myself, show you guys what it's going to look like. But check out the pearl effects that I've got going through here. You can see all that shimmer. Really, really lovely. Love that white pearl effect. And I'm going to be doing this one with a Junior Independence. It's only fitting to do it with a Junior Independence. I'm going to be doing it in a rhodium kit. And you see around that center band it says We the People. On the top there it says 1776. Really super cool kit. Zach with NV Woodworks spoke about these when I sent him a whole bunch of dye stabilized rope pieces, and he cast all of those pieces into a blue blank and turned a nautical pen kit with the dye stabilized pieces that I sent him. And he talked about these Junior Independence kits, and I just had to have them because I already had plans for doing up the red and blue dye stabilized pieces with this white pearl and making that lovely effect, and doing these with some sort of a patriotic pen. So these will fit right in. So without further ado, I'm going to get these measured out, cut up, drilled up, and get it going. Alright, I just got these cut to length, and you can see I've got my concentricity line marked right there, so I know where these two parts line up. And those air bubbles, you can see, really aren't that deep. Here's one right there. You can see not that deep at all, right toward the surface. See those right there? They went like that. So they're just together. That's all they are. They're just trapped in by that rope. As you can see, that piece of rope goes in right there, curled around and came in right here, and it just trapped them right at the bottom of the mold, so the resin didn't get underneath it, and they just stayed there. And that only happened in 3 spots in 12 pieces that I cast up, so it wasn't too bad. Now you can tell a lot about when you're doing hybrid material, how well they're going to turn. The rope is dye stabilized, it is very firm, but they are, of course, individual strands. And this is braided twine, braided into 3x3 rope. That means that you take 3 strands of twine, you twist them one way, and then you take 3 of those 3 twisted strands and then twist them the opposite way, and you get 3x3 braided rope. So you have a lot of individual strands. You can kind of see all these little stringers and things that kind of stick out in a few little places. Those add a little bit of character to it, shows you that it is actually rope. But because of those individual strands, when you're cutting those, you do kind of feel it, but they are resin stabilized. And they do cut kind of like a soft to medium hard wood. But you will need to use a CA finish on these. Once you add that CA finish to it, it stabilizes that exterior surface once it's turned, and it is perfectly stable. But you can kind of feel it after you've cut that it is a different texture. All right, let's get these drilled up. Did have just the smallest piece of chip out right there. The rope actually held in. I drilled right through 2 pieces of rope. That red piece in there and that blue piece right there. But it drilled just fine. So let's go ahead and drill the body. That looks great. All right, we'll get those glued up. You can see down inside there the spiraling of the rope through, and that looks awesome. Now I can see, if you look closely, see how the light, I've got a light on this side of the screen, and you see how the light is actually showing through right there. So I am going to paint my tubes on these, because if I can see the light coming through from this side because of my ring light I've got over here, then I'll probably be able to see brass if I get it down thin enough, especially if you're doing like a Sierra or something. Now these don't get down all too thin, but just to be safe, I'm going to paint the inside white for maximum effect. Got my rope blanks chucked up in here. I did paint the tubes white, like I said earlier, and then glued my tubes in and trued it up. Let's go ahead and get this turned. As you can see, I am cutting through rope in spots, and it does feel like it's cutting it pretty nicely. It's pretty smooth. You can still feel the fiber and stuff in there, but it doesn't feel any different than cutting any other hybrid blank. Let me get that sanded, get a CA finish on it, and then we will just see how this turns out. Check that out. Got it sanded all the way through 600 grit, and then I used some automotive 600 grit polishing paper in order to get that all polished up. And then I went over, did a CA finish on it, and it turned out nicely. Got that CA finish on there, and then polished back through from 1500 all the way through 12,000 grit. Just about to hit it with a little HUD Ultra Gloss to bring out that glorious shine that this thing so truly deserves. But check out how that pearl really glistens. Let me see if I can get you in close. Get my hand behind there, maybe it'll focus better. There we go. Check out that white pearl. It's gorgeous. All right, made some HUD Ultra Gloss on here. Get this going. Spinning at about 2,000 RPM. We just buff that in. And we just buff all that wax off, continue to degrade it down until our patch no longer comes off black. And there we have it. Absolutely beautiful. Let's go get this assembled. I'm all set up to do this Rhodium Independence pen. Love this Rhodium kit. This is really cool. You can see on the cap there it says 1776. Then on the center band it says We the People. There you can see it. It says We the People. It's a really neat kit. I was really excited to get these. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get it assembled. So first thing I've got to do is decide where I want my clip to go. And that's going to tell me how I put my cap on as well. So I'm thinking there's a nice section of pearly flash right there, and a nice section right there. And I think I'm going to put that clip right down the middle between those sections of flash, because there it's also not impeding any of my rope sections that I like, and it's not impeding any of those flashy sections. So then I'll take my 1776, I'm going to line that up with my clip. Then we will press those together like so. Now before I drive it all the way home, I'm just going to make sure those are lined up nicely. Ooh, do have to fix it just a little bit. There we go. See a little off this way. There. Perfect. Look at that. It's those little attentions to detail that take it from just selling a $30 pen to selling a $100 pen. Just making sure that those things line up beautifully. So now I need to decide how I want this to look. I'm going to take it, put it in here, and I think I'm going to, oh, that's loose in there. Nice. I didn't realize that was loose in there. So I can kind of press it in, and then when I get to where I want it, I'm going to line it up so that way when you're looking at it from the front, you can see the We the People all the way around the front. Alright, so make sure that aligns just center like that. And then drive that home. Yeah, I like how that looks. Just like that. Alright, so now we need to get our center and our center band lined up here. So I'm going to thread these two together. And then I'm going to take this piece, line up my rope there, just like that. Oop, that didn't do it. There we go. Take that off, hold those together. And then we'll just press those in just like that. And then before we put the back on, always check to make sure that those lined up properly. Yeah, I'd say that's good. Alright, so now let's get in the rear coupler. So that goes in just like so. Back this up a little bit. Alright, there we have it. We can thread on our tip, drop in our roller ball, thread on our post cap. And put those together. And there we go. There's our beautiful rollerball pen. Love the Independence theme on that with that red and blue rope and white background. We have to think of a nice name to call these. I'm thinking kind of Bound in Patriotism, I think is what I'm thinking. Has a nice fun play on the rope theme. Of course, the patriotic theme to it. It's a nice one. Really happy with how those turned out. I left all the little strings and everything hanging off the rope because I think they make nice fun features inside of the white background. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So that's the pen. It turned out pretty nicely. Really happy with how well it turned, how easy it was to turn. The rope didn't feel any different than turning like a resin and a wood stabilized pen. It turns really nicely. Sanding it, do be aware that when you're sanding, those strands might catch some of the sanding dust. So you need to be aware to really clean your blank with denatured alcohol before you go into your CA finish. I went over, cleaned mine twice with denatured alcohol. Usually I only have to do one pass. I went through, cleaned mine twice with denatured alcohol just to make sure that I got all of that sanding dust out of those threads and fibers. Now the threads and fibers don't really stand up. They stay together pretty nicely. They don't like pull out or anything weird. They actually bond really well to the resin and they turned beautifully. Sanding it was different because some areas it acted like a resin, some areas it acted like a wood, and so it sanded differently than I've ever experienced before. Scratch marks were a little trickier, but it didn't take me any more time than doing any normal hybrid blank. And a CA finish goes on beautifully, no issues with doing a CA finish, and then it polished up absolutely nicely. I was really happy with how well that turned out, and I'll have to get some really good quality photos because you guys can't see how beautiful that pearl is on these things. So I'm gonna go get some nice photos of this taken up. Be sure to check out my Etsy shop where I'm gonna be selling the Bound in Patriotism pen blanks. You guys can come on in, check those out. Do know that they are kind of a random patterning. I cast them in white and then the rope is just kind of put in there at random. So you're gonna get some areas where it's gonna like swoosh over, some areas it's just gonna kind of dot. Just like I have here, like there's a dot section where the end of the rope is spoken through, and then here's a swoop section where the rope actually passes all the way through and around. So do be aware that I can't control how those are going to turn up and how they're going to be cut and all that stuff. So they are going to be random. I would recommend buying a few. When you get them, look at them, see which ones are going to work for the different blank. Now I chose this one, and you can kind of see when I chose it, I could see where the rope was going to land when I drilled out and then turned it. So there were a few that I'm going to do with skinnier pens because the rope is deeper down in and they aren't going to show up with a thicker pen. So do be aware, might buy a few, and then that way you can decide exactly which pen you're going to set up with which blank. Thank you so much for joining me out in the Suits Crafting Woodshop. This is Tactical Painter signing out.